It's like you just came back from Narnia. You've just spent all this time in Narnia that you tumble out of the wardrobe and you're super disheveled and everything like that. And you're like looking around and nothing has changed. The world moved on without you. And then it's just like you're back to regular life for a second.
This is the Exploring the National Parks podcast with Dirt in My Shoes. My name is Ash, and I'm a former park ranger and the founder of Dirt in My Shoes. I think that the parks are best seen from the trail, and I'm here to make national park trip planning easy.
And I'm John. I carry the kids on the trails, I tell stories, and notice all the things that Ash doesn't care about much, like birds.
Join us as we show you around America's spectacular national parks.
We're sharing our favorite places, fun facts, adventures, and misadventures.
And we'll even throw in a little trip planning.
Let's start exploring.
We are joining you today for our second, what was called mailbag episode, but is now called Mail from the Trail, thanks to Candy and her recommendation for us. So last time when we recorded our first mailbag episode, we said, we don't love the name, but that's what everybody calls it. But if you have any suggestions, let us know. And we got some great suggestions.
Yes, and we needed a little bit of your creative genius. So thank you, Candy. And I love it because it reminds me of the Pony Express. I think that's really cool. We're getting mail from across the country by horse.
Our website is called Dirt in My Shoes. So that's a nod to that as well. So we really liked it. Mail from the Trail, where we answer your various questions that you send in. So keep those questions coming. You can go to dirtinmyshoes.com/podcast and fill out the form there, and we will get your questions and get them added on to our next Mail from the Trail episodes.
Yes.
So I also want to take a minute and say thank you to everybody, because our Exploring the National Parks podcast has been consistently in the top 10 podcasts on Apple lately.
Which is super crazy and super cool. So thank you so much. We love that. Your reviews and comments, they're really helping move the podcast upwards in mobility. So thank you for that.
And dude, our podcast is like in close proximity to Rick Steves, which I grew up watching his travel show, and I still buy his Europe travel books. I really like the way he travels. He hits a lot of good off the beaten path stops and stuff. And I was looking through the Apple podcast chart, and I was like, oh my gosh, we're so close to Rick Steves.
It's like we're playing the 7 Degrees from Kevin Bacon.
Yeah.
We're just we're 7 spots below Rick Steves. It's
I know.
We're almost, we could shake his hand, sort of. We're in the same screen as Rick Steves.
We're here.
Yes. Thank you for...
Come see us, Rick Steves.
I know.
Anyway.
That's pretty funny. And he's like, nice to meet you. I have pictures
Leave
in the
me
back.
alone. Yeah. So anyway, that's really exciting. Thank you to all of you. We are so, so grateful. You guys are the best. So anyway, John, you ready to jump in to Mail from the Trail?
I love getting mail from the trail. The first question that we got was from Judy, and Judy said, I'd love to hear about how to hike R to R, which is if you're a big fan of the Grand Canyon, you like to hike there, that's rim to rim. I'd love to hear about how to hike rim to rim, where to stay, how to reserve campsites on the trail, best time to go. Thanks, Judy. So we have never hiked rim to rim.
Not for lack of trying.
Right,
I have
exactly.
to say.
We haven't gone from the North Rim to the South Rim or vice versa. What we have done is go from the South Rim all the way down to the river and then back up the South Rim. We have done that, but north to south, we haven't done. If it were me, I'd hike the South Kaibab Trail down, camp at the bottom for a night or two, and then hike up the North Kaibab Trail. You can catch a shuttle from one rim to the other, but that is how we would do it.
Yes. And why would we do it that way? Because the South Kaibab Trail is the king of all Grand Canyon trails. I love this trail so much. However, it's the steepest trail to the bottom of the canyon.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to hike up it.
Right.
I would not. Some people do, and I'm always like, why? Why would you do that to yourself?
Right. And you might think to yourself, like, the distance from the North Rim to the Colorado River is actually much longer than it is from the South Rim through the South Kaibab Trail to the Colorado River. So you would think, why wouldn't I go downhill on the longer section? But the steepness is just crazy.
It is. But the South Kaibab Trail is the best. Like, the views from the South Kaibab Trail are so beautiful. They change often, so you're always seeing a different side of the Grand Canyon as you're heading down. And so you need to hike that trail. I just personally wouldn't want to hike up it. That's why we would say start at the South Rim, hike down the South Kaibab, and then go up the North Kaibab. The North Kaibab is still steep. All of these trails are really steep, but you have 14 miles basically from the river to the rim. It's a little less steep than trying to go up the South Kaibab. The Bright Angel Trail, which is the other trail at the Grand Canyon, the main trail. There are other trails, but these are like the main corridor trails.
Mm-hmm.
The Bright Angel Trail is boring for a large portion of it coming up.
Yeah.
I mean, as boring as hiking in the Grand Canyon can be, right? It's still amazing.
When you say boring, really what you mean is that as you're huffing and puffing and struggling all the way up this trail, you don't have changing views to distract you. And so on the Bright Angel Trail, there's like 3 sections of the trail. There's the switchbacks that are closest to the rim, the middle section, and then the closest section to the river.
The close section to the river is cool. I love that section. And the middle section is fine too, as you're trying to make your way up to Havasupai Garden.
It's really that last section.
The Havasupai Garden up to the top is hell on the trail. It is. I just there's no other way to put it, because you're ready to be done. You want to be out, and the view doesn't change. You're just doing switchbacks the whole way up.
Right.
So that's why, personally, for me and John, I think you agree with me, down the South Kaibab, up the North Kaibab, and then take the shuttle from the North Rim back to the South Rim.
Yep.
Unless you're going to do rim to rim to rim.
Which is on the bucket list.
Then you would go down South Kaibab, up North Kaibab, stay at the North Rim, and then go down North Kaibab, up Bright Angel, and get back to the South Rim and eliminate the need for the shuttle.
Right.
Doing that, though, takes an extreme amount of luck to be able to get the reservations that you need in the canyon.
Right.
So you do need permits to stay at the campgrounds down in there. There's Phantom Ranch, which is the little lodge down by the river. I think you have a better chance of winning $1 million in the lottery than getting reservations at Phantom Ranch.
That is from lived experience.
I was going to say, just due to my own experience of trying to stay at Phantom Ranch. Oh my gosh. So.
Yeah, it's so hard. It's so competitive. It's like 1,000 people for one spot. It's hard to do.
I think it's worse than that.
Yeah, it's crazy. But I was going to say, what's amazing is accomplishing rim to rim to rim. Yes, you have to have luck, but you're putting your body through something so hard. So you've got to prepare for this, just like you have to prepare for something like a marathon. The difference for the marathon is that when you get to the end, there's at least a finishing line and people are there cheering for you, and like people notice your accomplishment. When you come off the rim to rim to rim trail and you get to the very top, no one knows that you did anything. Nobody knows anything.
Everybody and their beer is hiking the top part of the Bright Angel Trail as you come out. And so you're just mixed in with all the day hikers who are like, I wonder where this goes.
I know. It's so funny. And so you come out, you've just accomplished this great thing, and you're like beaming. You're like, oh my gosh, I just did it. And then you've got like people walking past with their ice cream cones. Like,
what's her problem? Why is she so sweaty?
Why is she huffing and puffing? And it's like you just came back from Narnia. You've just spent all this time in Narnia, and then you come out, and then you tumble out of the wardrobe, and you're super disheveled and everything like that. And you're like looking around, and nothing has changed. The world moved on without you. And then it's just like you're back to regular life for a second. It's just like, Wait a second. So there should be some type of celebration.
Listen, though, one of my favorite experiences at the Grand Canyon was actually when we were able to celebrate with somebody who came off the rim to rim. I think he did rim to rim to rim.
He did all three.
Yeah. And he was this older gentleman from Japan. What was he, like 60?
Oh, at least.
And he was like, this has always been a dream of mine to do this. And he solo hiked it. He didn't have anyone to go with him. And he came out and we were standing there probably with our ice cream cones and our kids. But anyway, he came out and he just like had that look of elation on his face.
Mm-hmm.
And we went up to him and we were like, did you just hike the whole thing? And he was like, yeah, oh my gosh, like this, like I just did this thing. And so we like cheered for him and we took his picture next to the Bright Angels Trail sign and I even have a picture of me with him because we were just so excited for him.
Oh, it was so funny.
And it was really fun.
Well, it's like, I think if we didn't say something, he would have just gone up and grabbed somebody. He was so excited about it. He was just like, all right, that person doesn't have ice cream. I can grab their arm. Guess what I just did? You know? And it's like, you have to have that experience. And so if you end up ever accomplishing rim to rim to rim, just grab somebody without ice cream and tell them because they will be excited for you.
I know. I will be just like, oh my gosh, I did it. Just scream it to the world because it feels like such a big accomplishment.
It does. And all the people that have ice cream, don't grab them because they won't have the time because they've got melted things that they need to take care of before they can share in your joy. So
yeah. Oh my gosh. It's such a cool experience. Just one of those big bucket list hikes that you just, if you can, try to get to it at some point because hiking below the rim at the Grand Canyon is a completely different experience than just staying on the rim and looking down.
Oh, yeah.
It's incredible.
It's like the difference of being at an NBA game and playing in the NBA game. It's so different.
Like you would know.
Oh, yeah. From my experience, I've shot around.
A couple of the nitty-gritty planning details, though, with the doing this is the permit system is quite extensive. So what you're looking at to get like a permit to backcountry camp, so if you want to have a Supai Garden, or if you want to stay down at the bottom of the canyon, or you want to stay along the North Kaibab, there are campsites along the way. And if you're going to do that, then really your process starts about 6 months in advance. What they do is they do like an early lottery. So you put your name in for this early lottery. If you get chosen for that, then you get to go and make your reservations before everybody else. It doesn't guarantee that you'll get what you want. It just means that like before they open it to the general public, they let a few people go in and fight for these spots first.
Right.
So that happens about 5.5-ish months before you're going to go, or before the month that you're hoping to go. If you get picked for the early lottery, then you have a month to make your reservations, and then they open it up for everybody else like 3 months in advance. And at that point, everything's going to be pretty much taken. It's super competitive. But they do have like some last minute ones that you can go to the Backcountry Center to try to get. You can get on a wait list at the Backcountry Center. Like once you're actually at the Grand Canyon, you can be put on a wait list, and then you just have to wait and see if they have any openings. So a couple different options there, but it is quite the process. The other thing is, if you're going to Phantom Ranch, that's a lottery system. Again, good luck. When people email me and they're like, I got reservations at Phantom Ranch, and I'm like, how?
I know.
How did you do it?
It's like they got a golden ticket to Willy Wonka's chocolate factory.
I never get chosen for lotteries. That's why I hate lottery systems in the national parks, because it's like I never win those. If it's up to like who's there first, like I win those ones all the time. But if it's like they're just putting my name in a hat and maybe I'm lucky enough to get drawn out, I never win those.
And I feel like we've been a part of our fair share of raffles. And
I don't win.
No,
I don't win anything. But anyway, so the Phantom Ranch lottery starts 15 months in advance. 15 months. You need to decide before that you're going to put in for that.
Which is nuts.
Yeah, it's quite the process. The other question that Judy asked was the best time to go. I honestly would avoid the summer at all costs. When we hiked just the South Rim trails, it was like, what would you say, like 60 degrees, I think, when we started at the top. And by the time we got down to the river, we got down to the river around like 9:30 a.m. or so. It was 90 degrees
It was
down
so
there.
hot.
It was so hot. And then when you're hiking back out of the canyon, you want to set yourself up really well so that you're not hiking during the hottest part of the day.
Right.
So a lot of people, if you do go during the summer especially, they'll start hiking out of the canyon at like 3 or 4 a.m.
Yes.
so that you get, a good distance before the sun even comes up. So the weather is definitely a huge thing when you're hiking the Grand Canyon, and the temperature swings are huge from the top of the rim down to the bottom. It can change drastically. But I personally would not want to hike this in the summer because it can get 100+ degrees. I would aim for the spring or the fall.
Yeah, my grandfather, he was a scout leader of a scout troop, and they did backpack the Grand Canyon during the summer. I'm imagining it was miserable, but also that's when summer monsoons can come through. And they did have a summer monsoon come through, and it washed out the trail while they were on it. They found a way out, but they kind of had to be almost rescued. And so the summertime is just hot and risky, if you ask me.
Yeah. So that's our 2 cents, having not actually done the rim to rim, but having hiked some of those corridor trails. That would be what we would say. Anything to add, John?
No, but do get some ice cream at the top. It's really good.
Yeah. And grab someone to celebrate with you.
Yes, exactly.
So our second question comes from Christine. And she says, while I think I'm a hiker, I'm not when it comes to taking necessities on a hike. I broke every cardinal rule when in South Dakota, did not know the length of the hike or the difficulty, no flashlight, phone's low on battery, no snacks, 1 water, etc. And ended up getting pretty scared as it began to get dark and we couldn't find the path. Luckily, I climbed up a huge rock and was able to spot the path, and we were able to get out to the lake in time for the dark. Always an adventure with me. So she was wondering how to avoid all that happening, basically.
Christine, I think we've all had moments when we realize that we're unprepared, or we think we'll be okay, but maybe we didn't think about all of the details. And so we all have moments like that. So don't feel too bad. We've all been there. But now that you've had that experience, we're here to help you through the rest of it.
I was going to say, I feel like I always get stuck hiking in the dark. That's just something that, I don't know, I'm always slower than I think I'm going to be.
Right. When Ash and I were dating, we went on this one trail and we were like coming down the mountain in the dark using our flashlight from our camera or from our phone. I was just like, when I think back about that one, it's a little scary. Plus, I think there was a moose. There was a moose in the river.
I know there was. I swear it. So yeah, this is a normal thing, especially as you're starting hiking. Maybe you're not so familiar with what you actually need to have with you and how to mitigate some of those circumstances to the best of your ability. We actually just wrote an article on this, and it is up on Dirt in My Shoes, so you can find that in the gifts and gear section of the website. But it's basically the 10 essentials that you need to have in your pack with you to have a safe hiking experience.
Exactly. And this is actually pretty helpful. I was reading through it and I was like, I need to make sure I have that in my pack.
I don't think you do. I think it's all in mine.
I know. It's so true. If I looked through my bag versus Ash's, I think it would be a very different experience. You'd find like graham crackers and stuff in mine, and Ash's got all the important things.
You can probably guess between the two of us who's more of the worrier and who's more of the planner. But yeah, so check out this post on Dirt in My Shoes because I have it, and I'll link it in the show notes of this podcast too. Basically, it has like all the stuff that I currently use when I'm hiking, like gear and stuff like that. But then it also has the 10 essentials and links to the ones that I personally have in my pack. That is things like as I was reading off the problems that happened during your hike, I was like, okay, if she would have had the 10 essentials, you would have been much better prepared for hiking around Custer State Park. But it includes things like navigation. I do not use my phone for navigation if I can help it. Or at least you have to have a backup. if you're going to use your phone, you still need a paper map. You still need something. Because as she said, her phone, the battery was almost dead. And that's going to do you no good if you get stuck or lost. So paper maps, I use the National Geographic ones usually. First aid kit, you can get a first aid kit that's like, I don't know, 4 by 4 inches. Really small, but something you can just throw in there that has the basics. Food, like always bring more food than you think you'll need. And that goes for water as well.
Right. Not just graham crackers. Those don't do anything.
No.
It's just the flavor.
Well, and to be fair, like we have run out of water on hikes before. And we had a really scary experience actually in Glacier where we ran out of water and our kids were getting like super dehydrated, heat stroke symptoms, and we didn't have water to give them. It was so scary. Ever since that experience, I always hike with a little water filter because even if you run out of water in your bottle, if you have a backup way to get water, then, I mean, because we were surrounded by waterfalls. That was what was killing me. It was like, there's so much water right here, but we can't drink it without making ourselves sick. And so right after that trip, I went and I bought this little mini water filter. It's like 15 or 20 bucks and it takes up no space. And I just make sure I always have that in my pack just in case. We also have those Life Straw, like individual water filters that are like the tube that you can suck the water through. Again, like hardly any weight and hardly any space in your pack, but it could make a huge difference.
Yes. And along with something pretty small that can really help out in an emergency, they do have emergency shelters as well. And you can get like an emergency bivvy, which honestly packs up into something so small, but can really help you with exposure to the elements.
It's like the size of like those emergency blankets, basically, is all it is.
Right. Exactly.
But you can get like a tent style where it's more of a shelter, or you can just get an emergency blanket style, basically. That's just, you know, a piece of aluminum foil that's going to keep you warm and protected in case of emergency.
Right. Like I can see situations where that would just save you. That would be awesome. If a summer monsoon comes through, and almost any national park, if a rainstorm comes through, soaks everybody, you know, this is the only way you might be able to get dry.
And if you get, you know, if you have to stay out for a day or two, a night or two that you weren't planning, having something like that would just put something between you and the elements, keep you safer longer. So that's a huge deal. Headlamps, as we mentioned, like I just have a couple of small, cheap headlamps that I keep in my bag with a bag of extra batteries.
And that way you're not using your phone battery too, you know, in case you do want to use the flashlight on that or something. But if you need to call for emergency help, or like if you do actually, you don't have service and then you see you've got a bar or something like that, you know, you don't want to have used all of your battery power on lighting. You know, you want to save that on your phone.
And then another thing you'll always want to have with you is fire starter of some type. We carry waterproof matches. They come in a little container, sun protection, and then insulation, like layers. So I have like a packable jacket that gets really, really small. It's like the size of a soda can.
I know. It's awesome. Kind of amazing.
So I know. So I just throw that in my pack as well, because you never know if you're going to get stuck out there. It's just nice, again, to have something else.
Yeah, I was just thinking, since we're calling this Mail from the Trail, and I was thinking of the Pony Express. I feel like the Pony Express guys would like look at all of this nice gear that we have. Like, you guys are so spoiled. You're kidding? I had to fill up my saddlebags. I had to camp under my horse. That was my shelter if I ever got into an emergency situation. Or like do what they do in Star Wars, you know, when he like warms up by using the tauntaun. And I thought they smelled bad on the outside, you know?
I know it's true, but how many people actually hike with all these things?
Yeah, exactly.
Because we didn't for a long time. That's why we've had problems.
Right, exactly. So don't put yourself in a Han Solo situation where you have to use your pack animal to keep you alive.
Oh my gosh, gross. Speaking of using your pack animal to leave you alive, the other thing is that you need a knife or a multi-tool in case you need to kill your pack animal for heat.
I didn't think you were going to go back there. I thought you were trying to segue away from it.
No,
that's true.
No.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, what would you do if you didn't have a knife, right?
I saw this episode of Surviving with like Bear Grylls or whatever, and he found like a dead elk carcass and he like skinned it basically and like slept inside of its skin. It was pretty... Wow, this got graphic really fast.
I just feel like I would not be able to do that. That's why I carry my emergency bivvy. Like,
that's true. That is a good selling point for the bivvy. Or if you don't take the bivvy, you need the multi-tool and you need a killer instinct
carcass. Yeah.
Exactly. Or a few marmots, something like that.
Oh, no, not the marmots. I love marmots.
I know, but you have to have a few of them.
I wouldn't be able to do it. No, I wouldn't be able to do it. I'd freeze first, probably. Anyway, Christine, to answer your question, the 10 essentials is what you'll want to make sure you bring. We'll link that in the show notes so you can read through it and see what we actually have ourselves that we keep with our packs. But yeah, it can make a huge difference. The other thing I would say, or what I would add to this, is learn how to read a topographic map. Make sure that you know how to read one, because just buying one is probably not going to be that helpful to you if you don't know what you're looking at.
Right. Well, that's another reason why you don't want to just rely on like Google Maps or something like that as well, is because it's just like, especially if you're in like a national park or a state park, a lot of times it just shows up as a green blob with you as a dot on the green blob. And so that's why the paper maps are so much more detailed and helpful, so that you don't have to climb to a top of a high rock or a hill or something to try to get a vantage point. You can look at the map and realize, okay, this is the landscape, and you can tell it just by looking at the map.
Though I have had to do that before too. Before I was good at reading maps. So I totally understand where you're coming from. The nice thing about hiking is that really anybody can start. It's a good free activity, and you don't need a bunch of extra gear, and you don't need a lot of special stuff, but you do need some stuff. And getting all of these things together won't cost you a whole lot of money, but it will help with your overall experience when you're out on the trail.
And then, honestly, you'll get it all in your bag, and then you'll just have it for years, and it'll be at the bottom of your bag, and you won't even have to think about it.
You might not even ever have to use a lot of it. I mean, a lot of our stuff is still intact from years ago. Ever since that one instance in Glacier where we ran out of water, like, I haven't even had to use our mini filters because I pack so much water.
Right, exactly. Well, it's so true. But then every once in a while, when you do like a inventory in your backpack, or if you're like cleaning it out to get your kids' goldfish remains out of the bottom of the bag or something like that, you realize, oh yeah, I have this.
I know. I forgot I put that in there.
So, or like you'll have like 3, I don't know, if you don't do those inventories very often, you'll have multiple of everything. And you're like, oh, I guess I don't need 2 of these first aid kits, or stuff like that.
I have found multiple first aid kits in my bag because I'm just like, oh, do I have one in there? I don't know. I'll just grab this one too, and I'll throw it in there.
Ash walking through REI like they're having a sale, and she's like, oh my gosh, $3 for a first aid kit? Holy smokes. I'll just toss it in, not realizing she has 3 in there already.
I love REI.
Why is my bag so heavy, John?
My bag is the heaviest. John's had back surgeries and he can't carry a ton of weight. So like, if I carry all the water, I grumble a little bit, but it's usually my own doing. I always overpack water now, but...
She's always like, everybody take a drink.
Drink your water. Perfect. Okay, question 3, our last question for this episode is from Carrie.
Yes, this is a good one.
And yes, Carrie asks, which parks have you not been to yet? And of those, which are you most eager to get to? So, Carrie, we've not been to all national parks because this surprises a lot of people that we haven't, because of all the good work we do getting people to the parks. But the reason we haven't is because we are much more quality over quantity. And so a lot of the bigger parks we go back to year after year to make sure like our itineraries are set up correctly and still working and stuff like that. So that's why a lot of times, like, we'll go to a park and it will be like our 5th time to this park, and we still have other parks we haven't been to, but we need to go back to Acadia to make sure that things are still up to date in the itinerary. So that's why we haven't been to all of them yet. We are slowly checking off the ones that we haven't been to yet, but...
There's another reason too.
Oh, is there? Money? No.
No, it's not.
Well, kind of, because all the ones we have left are super expensive to get to. It's
yes,
like,
exactly.
Okay.
All the ones we have left are parks that are their own journey. You can't compile them into a longer road trip and hit multiples. But a lot of the ones we're waiting on it's the same reason why I'm waiting to watch some Mel Gibson movies with my sons. We're waiting till they're old enough to really appreciate, experience, and have some fun and not be totally negatively blown away by the experience. So The Patriot or Braveheart. I just talking the other day, my kid was like, "What's Last of the Mohicans?" I'm like, "You will find out when you're a little older." It's pretty cool movie. But we want to take our kids to some of these more isolated Alaska parks and things like that when they can actually help when there's a bear around and are not just treats running around.
Well, the other thing is, so what we have left, we have 6 of the 8 Alaska parks. Some of them are easier to get to. It's just that we have not visited those ones yet. We have Samoa, Virgin Islands, Isle Royale, stuff like that. It's all parks like that. So we have about 13 left. And we have been to Alaska multiple times, and I worked as a ranger in Alaska and stuff. So we're pretty familiar with the parks we've been to. But I looked into going to some of those harder to get to Alaska parks, and the bush planes that you have to take to some of these won't even take little kids. So at the time when I was like, oh, we should go, and I was looking through it and I was starting the planning process, and then it was oh, they won't take kids under 6 or 5, which is kind of right where our youngest is. And so I think now our kids are old enough to do that, but I haven't looked into it again yet. We're not quite ready because it's such a huge undertaking, and I want to take a month or 2 and hit all those Alaska parks all in one trip. And so it's not quite time yet, but it will be. The other one I'm really bitter about is Isle Royale, because you have to make reservations for the lodge super far in advance. I think I made the reservations. They open up in January for the following year. So it was literally a month or a year and a half in advance that I made those reservations. And we got the room I wanted. We got everything I wanted. And then John had to get back surgery right before that trip. And so I had to cancel it all out. I was so sad. So
it was a sad thing.
We almost made it there. We haven't hit all of them due to stuff like that. And then plus just having our kids be young and just going back to the same parks over and over. We're going back to Great Smoky Mountains this summer because I want to check on some things on the itinerary, stuff like that. And so it's I won't say no to a trip to the Smokies. Would I rather be going to a park I've not been to yet? Probably, but it's okay. We're happy to do it.
Yes, they're all so much fun. It's like going back to your favorite fast food place. I have a favorite. I have a default. What are you in the mood for? Chick-fil-A. Always Chick-fil-A.
It's always Chick-fil-A. I know, I was going to say that's mine too. Chick-fil-A. It's too bad it costs so much money to take our whole family there. But yeah, that's a fun question. We are working on it, but those harder to get to ones are the ones we're at now. So it's just going to take a while.
And thank you so much for all of your questions today. We really appreciate it. If you have any questions, send us some mail from the trail. We would love to hear from you, and we would love to, answer any questions you might have, and we'd love to help you go have some really cool adventures.
And I just want to say one last thing that I forgot to mention. Just recently, I released a master reservation list. So we talked in this episode about making those Grand Canyon permit reservations and stuff like that. This master reservation list, it's free. It's part of the free resources. So if you already have an account with the free resources, then it's in there. If you haven't, then you can sign up on the Dirt in My Shoes homepage. But this master reservation list has every national park, all of them, and when to make reservations and how and where the link is to do so. I've already been using that. I was oh, I got to look up when to make a reservation for Isle Royale next summer, whatever, then you can get on there and you can see, oh, I have to make these reservations super far in advance. And then the link is there for you to do so. So go pick that up. It's on the Dirt in My Shoes homepage. You can sign up for it there. If you already purchased an itinerary, then you can just log in and you can add the free resources to your account, which is really cool. So it's all right there.
This is such a cool thing because we've wanted this for so long just for ourselves. You know, we've wanted a cheat sheet basically for when to make reservations for each national park. What month is it? What national parks? Without having to like really dig in deep into it and like go back into our archives. We wanted it all in one spot. And so this has been something that's been a dream of ours personally for a long time. And so we're excited to share it with you.
I know. I've already been using it. I've already planning for next year. I've already been pulling it up like, okay, when do I need to put this reservation date on my calendar and stuff like that. So it's been super helpful for me and we're excited to share it with you. But otherwise, leave us a comment at dirtmyshoes.com/podcast to let us know if you have any questions. And thank you for joining us for this Mail from the Trail episode. We hope you get some dirt in your shoes.